Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome to another feature match commentary on the channel today. So this is going to be round 3 of my online Discord tournament. If you guys do want to go ahead and participate in the next one, definitely feel free to check out the link to the Discord server in the description box below as per usual. But this is going to be a match featuring Saint RL on Mekk-Knight Orcust versus Doctor Who on Buster Blader Tenyi, which you guys did vote for in the poll. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. So we're going to see the Mekk-Knight Orcust player win the RPS and going to opt to go first. The opening hand is Imperm, Girsu, Orcust, Brass Bombard, Blue Sky, and Orcust Nightmare. So this hand has a lot of engine cards actually in it. It'll be interesting to see if he decides between Girsu versus Brass, because based on the hand traps this format, it's kind of a gamble. Previously, I feel like it would have always been correct to go Brass, like just guaranteed. But now that Skull Mice is in the format, it could be risky. But then again, like Ash on this also ends your turn. So I guess you guys gotta pick your poison and hope that they just, I guess maybe not playing Meister. Probably would still go Brass. Also interesting to see Imperm still make the main deck here. I just think it personally just got a lot weaker from last format because it doesn't interact super well with like VW or Drytron or Eldritch, but good against rogue matchups like this one. And then for the Tenyi hand, we're going to see Mipura, Foolish Burial, Adhara, Ashuna, and Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. So no hand traps or dedicated Ghost second cards here, but and also no Buster Blader engine, but a lot of ways to put bodies on the field and multiple ways to access Mare Mare, which is what the deck really wants to have for its power pushes. So it'll be interesting to see how these decks light up. I can't say I'm an expert on the Orcust versus Tenyi matchup, but we'll just go ahead and find out, I guess, here together. So normal summon Brass Bomber. Yeah, I probably would have gone for this too, even though it does lose to Meister. Like, if they have it, they have it at that point, right? I mean, the whole point of the deck is just kind of like chew through various disruptions, and you could just try again next turn if it comes down to it. But gonna turn that into Linkuriboh, and then use the Brass Bombard that does resolve, so it's gonna get Nightmare out of hand, and then going to link away for Galatea. Galatea effect is going to recycle the Brass Bombard, and then set a copy of Crescendo, and then set a copy of Imperm and pass. This is like the control-oriented build. That's why he didn't go like Nightmare, Banish, Wand, and then like bring back the Nightmare, and then go Ding, and then go like IP. Just because he's not playing, I don't think he's playing Babel in this build. So he's always going Crescendo turn 1, obviously, in that case. So it makes more sense. It also helps contribute to the grind better. I talked about this a little bit in my deck profile, which you can check out on the channel. But we're going to next see the Tenyi player go ahead and draw for turn. It's a copy of Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi, so not a great card going second to break the board, but if he establishes his own board, it could be good. So we'll see if he can play past 2 disruptions. This hand has a lot of extenders, though. Mipura going to go ahead and be activated. That's going to summon itself to the field. Follow that up by a copy of Monk. This one in Graveyard, by the way, allows you to negate targeting effects. So on your non-effect monsters. So it doesn't really line up well on Imperm because that's the only targeting effect here, and you're not Imperming a non-effect monster. But it's there for like other potential like applications. Maybe like, I don't know, Fringe Dinomischus or Compulse or something. But Foolish Burial going to be used next. That's going to send Vishuda. And Vishuda is going to target the Galatea. That's going to immediately either force a Crescendo, or he might choose to let this go. Because if you're trying to, or if you think you don't get OTK'd here, then you could just leave this for like the grind game, and that could be nice. But on the other hand, this could also kind of help facilitate the grind as well. So I guess there's arguments either way. I guess it just depends on how confident he's feeling that he's not going to lose this turn. So he is going to actually let the Galatea get bounced. So I'm feeling pretty confident that his Imperm is going to get in there. He's going to then go Ashuna. I almost said Ashuda. This is the one that summons from deck. And then he's going to normal summon Adhara. And then Synchro into Bashia. This one's cool. So this lets you spin back cards on the field up to the number of different original worm attributes for whatever was used for the summon. So because a light and an earth was used, he can spin back 2. This also has a effect that works well with like pure Yangzings, where like, you pop your own cards and then special monsters on or from the graveyard. But that I don't know would come up in this build. Maybe it does. But we're gonna see Bashia go and try and spin the 2 back row. This probably just gonna fetch the Imperm. And from here, I think Tenyi can play completely unhindered. So Vessel can send, usually it's gonna send Mare Mare, and because he has a non-effect monster, he can add a Tenyi with a different name from whatever he just sent. So he's going to search for Nahata. And from here, you can just go into the Shaman, right? This is one that summons back Mari Mari. You pitch one, then target a worm in your graveyard, special it, and then you can't activate effects of extra deck monsters except Tenyis. But that's not really that big of a deal. He's going to go and pitch the Nahata. That's going to bring back the Mari Mari in attack position, and then going to use the Mari Mari effect thrice per turn. Then he's going to follow that up with an Ashuna. That's going to go and summon a copy of Shithana. Oh, Nahata, by the way, is the one that is attack reduction for combat involving non-effect monsters. And then Shithana lets you basically recur, destroy non-effect monsters, and then you can destroy a card non-targeting on your opponent, or one monster that your opponent controls that also doesn't target. So he's then going to go for a copy of Monk, and then link the Monk in 2 tokens for a Berserker, and then Shaman and the last token for another Berserker. So this is actually 8100 damage. So there you go. So that's going to be the end of game 1. So we found out that Shaman with Mari Mari engrave is 8100 damage against an open field. So I think there probably was, in the end, in hindsight, worth it to use a Crescendo. I probably would have personally done it. Just because having Galatea engrave is nice, just if you want follow-ups with like Symbol and stuff. And then having Crescendo engrave obviously is also a good extender on your own turn. But regardless, we're going to see Tenyi take that game, and we're going to have Orcust go first again in game 2. If you guys are enjoying this commentary, definitely be sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new here and want to see more commentary similar to this style. But the opening hand for Orcust is going to be Memory, Skullmeister, Orchestrated Return, Nibiru, and Girsu. So Girsu, solid starter. Skullmeister, good hand trap in this format, but also in this matchup because so much stuff activates in Graveyard. So really good here. Nibiru also could be relevant, but it also gives your opponent a token, so that's also something to kind of watch out for. And then like some contingencies in Memory and Orchestrated Return as well. So he's going to start off by normal summoning Girsu. That's going to use its effects. Oh, I didn't go over the Tenyi hand, I'm sorry. It's Adhara, Lightning Storm, Mapura, Vishuddha, and Ashuna. So no hand traps, but a dedicated Go second card and Lightning Storm. No Buster Wader cards again, but 4 Tenyis, very similar one to the last time as well. Because this was a Foolish, and he actually drew the same 3 Tenyis otherwise. But notably no Vessel, which is the way that you access Mari Mari. So it can be a little bit harder to break the board perhaps. But anyways, we're going to see normal summon Girsu. That's going to send a Nightmare. And then Girsu is going to generate a couple of tokens. Then going to turn a token into Linkuriboh. And then going to go into Galatea. This token could be problematic. He's probably going to have to clear it with Ding, because giving a Tenyi player a token seems a little risky. Going to go and use Nightmare, targeting the Galatea. That's going to send a copy of World Wand. World Wand going to bring back the Orcust Nightmare. Then going to use the Galatea. That's going to recycle back the Wand. And then go for the Orcust Crescendo. And then he's going to go for Dingirsu, clear away the token, and then make his Crescendo live by going to another Galatea. So this route kind of played hard into Nibiru. And I feel like he could have just not used the Girsu token effect at all and just gone send Nightmare, banish, send Wand, banish Wand, bring back Nightmare, go Galatea, and then that's the end of it. The difference is that you have now a Ding and a Linkuriboh in Graveyard, but you play around Nibiru by doing it that way. I think it's worth it, because like, even though this is nice to have in Graveyard, you can also just like Symbol revive the Galatea, then just overlay Dingirsu. So, I don't know, I feel like it was probably worth it to play around Nibiru just in case. But regardless, Tenyi doesn't have it. He's going to set World Legacy Memory. And plus, like, the other thing, too, is that he was never able to use the Orchestrated Return because, like, he had to use Ding to clear the token, which turned off the Crescendo since he had no more links. So if he, like, used Return at that point, then he just couldn't make another Link monster, right? And he just can't return at any other point because that doesn't make sense, too. So he's letting his opponent read a Crescendo again. And that's going to be a pass. For turn, we're going to see a Call by the Grave. This is very good in this matchup, of course. Also can be used against the hand traps. So he's going to enter main phase 1, go for the Lightning Storm. That's going to try and blow away the back row. So he has a bit of a decision to make for Orcust, because if you use the Memory in response at any point before using Nibiru, it turns it off. But there is an interaction kind of similar to the Babel play that people used to do, where like if you Nibiru and use this this Memory, it works a little bit different with Memory because Memory locks you up for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, whereas the Nightmares... oh wait, never mind. Nightmares also work basically for the rest of the turn, but similarly, if these do successfully resolve, you're locked in the darks anyway. So it makes it so that like if you try and activate Nibiru, you can resolve as much as you can, aka tribute the whole field, but your summoning locks cause the Nibiru to stay in your hand and your opponent does not get the token. So that could definitely be relevant. Lightning Storms, though, is going to be met with the Orcust Crescendo. And then we're going to see Vishuddha come out. That's going to summon itself. Then going to go for the Monk. And then going to banish the Vishuddha. That's going to hit the memory, or attempt to hit the memory. It's going to be met with Skullmeister. I think you definitely call by the Graves this. Just because then it puts your opponent in a position where, like, do they value this that highly that they're then going to chain it? And it puts the Orcust player in a real bind. Because, again, like, either you just have to relinquish another potential play in favor of having your Nibiru still be alive, which I think is worth it. Or you just try and go for the purple and hope everything works out. But he's not going to choose to call by the grave here, so that's going to kind of change the course of action. So he's going to go for Ashuna next. I personally would have dropped call by the grave there. I don't know. I think that would have been a great play, or a good play, because you're putting your opponent on the fact that like this has to be something valuable enough to activate. Because if they're protecting it with Skullmeister, it's probably a good card, you would think, right? So I don't know. I think it was worth using Call by the Grave here. But he's going to do pretty much the same stuff as last time. He special Ashuna, normal summon the Adhara, and then going to go for Bashia again. So that's going to force out some response here. And counting the summons, it's Vishuddha 1, Monk 2. These are 3 and 4, and then the Bashia is 5. So then he's going to... Right, so it's going to be Chainlink 1 Bashia, Chainlink 2 Nibiru, and then Chainlink 3 Memory. So Memory is going to resolve. That's going to summon out Girsu. And then Nibiru tries to resolve, so it's going to tribute everything, but it can't special itself due to its own... due to the memory lock. So everything just goes to grave and it stays in hand. Oh, and here's where like a bit of a procedural error happens. So he attempts to use Girsu here, but the Girsu actually misses its location window to actually trigger because it happens on summon. So it needs to be on the field actually by the time it would try to resolve, because obviously from being tributed by Nibiru, it's no longer on the field. So it can't activate in graveyard. So this messes up the sequencing a little bit because what ends up happening is that the Tenyi player uses the call by the grave here. But I actually watched this match back, and it won't really matter, I don't think, because the Orcust player will be able to push past the call by the grave even if it was just set here. Because even though the Tenyi player has some plays, he chooses to pass. Like maybe he could have gone Mapura, go for Monk, and then go Ashuna, and then try and make a bit of a push, but it wasn't really going to end on that great of a board, so he just passed. But here, even if this call by the grave was still set, Orcust would have definitely been able to play past it because he's going to use Crescendo, and that's going to search for a Girsu. And right now, this Girsu is being negated by call by the grave because of just what transpired during the previous turn. But under these circumstances, it would actually be live. So he's going to then, like, what would have happened probably was he would have used it now, and maybe his opponent uses call by the grave on the third copy of Girsu. Or like, it would have actually been 2 copies of Girsu in here. Or maybe it saves it for the Nightmare, but in that case, you could like send Skeleton off this Girsu. So then, like in that case, you would have been able to get tokens as well. So I think that even if Call by the Grave was set here and this Girsu was not being negated at the current moment of activation, it would have been fine. But right now, the Girsu would be negated, so he's just going to skip that step and just go for Nightmare. And then use that to send Symbol. And then Symbol bring back the Galatea. And then Galatea effect is going to recycle back the Symbol out of targets, but not a big deal. Going to go for Dingirsu here. That's going to attach the Orcust Nightmare. And then going to go Battle Phase and attack for 44 plus 3 because of the Nightmare sending Symbol. So it should be 47 to bring him down to 33. Yep. And main phase 2, going to activate the Orchestrated Return. That's going to send away the Girsu to draw World 1 and Ash. Ash always nice and simplified game states. So I think this board would have been accomplished, or at least something very similar, despite the call by the grave, because just everything would have been a little bit different. But he had enough resources to where one singular disruption wasn't going to stop him. So I think Orcust was still in a good play or a good place in this game, and is like in a very favorable spot to win. Despite the fact that Girsu, or rather this Girsu, wasn't able to actually activate. But no big deal. Going to go ahead and set the Solemn Judgment and pass. And then for turn, we're going to see a top deck to Vitullo, which is pretty interesting. He's going to start off by specialing the said Vitullo, turning that into a copy of Monk, and then going for the Vitullo Banish. That's going to return the Judgment to the hand. Obviously, you're not going to Judgment the Monk. It doesn't really make much sense. So yeah, just going to let that go back to hand. And then he's going to activate the Mapura. That's going to summon itself. Then going to activate the Ashuna. However, that is going to be Ash Blossomed, which is a very good Ash here. You know everything your opponent has, and like that's really good to just kind of go and stop the extra body. Adhara going to be used next is going to add back the Ashuna. And then going to link away into a Shaman. And then a Shaman effect is going to pitch the Ashuna. It's going to bring back the Monk. And then going to go for the Berserker, the Tenyi. So I guess just trying to have something that does damage, even though the Ding just protects itself. So yeah, this is pretty clearly game for Orcust. Battleflay is going to attack. Oh, right, yeah, he decides to drop Nibiru here. I think that was kind of not needed because he had a good amount of resources anyway. Like, he would have just detached the Nightmare here, and he would have had a Galatea in Graveyard. So, I mean, he would have had everything set up the way he wanted it, but not going to, again, matter too much just because, Orcust is so far ahead here. So, going to summon the token, and that'll be the end of that. So, for turn, we're going to see a top deck Scrap Recycler, which is pretty decent. He really has access to Gyusu, though, because he has a Nightmare and Gyusu both in the Banished pile and in the graveyard. So, yeah, Nightmare going to go ahead and boost the Nibiru by 8 by sending the Wand. That's going to summon the Wand out of hand. And then he's going to go for Wands to bring back the Gyusu. Gyusu effect is going to send Symbol. And then Symbol going to bring back the Galatea. And then Galatea going to recycle the Symbol. And those are going to be linked away for a copy of Long Gyusu. That's going to shuffle back 2. And then send away the token. I almost said spin the token. And then Battle Phase is going to attack for the 3800 nib. And that is going to be game right there. So that is going to be game number 2, going to Mekk-Knight Orcust. Pretty solid. This is a pretty good demonstration of like what the deck is trying to do as far as just make the trades. The hand traps are really, really strong there. But we're now going to move into game number 3. And we're going to see the Buster Blader Tenyi player go first. So the opening hand is going to be double Wear-Off Thou, Adhara, Nahata, and Fists. So not the strongest hand. It does have finally the Buster Blader Axis, but it doesn't have like a Shuna or any of the crazy ways like Axis Mari, for example. So it'll be pretty interesting. And then for the Orcust hand, it's going to be Ash, World Wand, Scrap Recycler, Nibiru, and Orcust Nightmare. So this hand's also really good. 2 hand traps, and they're both quite nice in this matchup, plus a way to start. So we're going to see Tenyi start off with a copy of Nahata. That's going to summon itself to the field, and then going to go for a copy of Monk. Then going to follow up with a copy of Adhara. That's going to summon itself, and then go for Wear-Off Thou. That will search for a copy of the Buster Whelp, so first appearance of the Buster Bladed cards. It's going to normal summon the Buster Whelp, and that's going to add a prologue. I'm very surprised that this didn't get Ashed, personally, just because like, this is a magnet for Ash, and Imperm back when it was more popular. Because this sends for cost, I can't Ash this. Yeah, like, I was thinking maybe he's like trying to play around talents, but the Tenyi player goes into the Protector Whelp and activates its effect to mill a Destruction Sword card, and then that ends up getting Ashed. So I'm thinking here that he's probably not playing around talents. So I do wonder why he chose to hold the Ash there, because like ashing on this like makes it that even though this could theoretically send the Wizard Buster, which is like a Dweller against Orcust, which is strong, without the Buster Blader like monsters themselves, it doesn't really accomplish a whole ton. So like if this never showed up in hand, like that would make the Protector Whelp kind of just a moot point. But those 2 monsters are going to be linked away for a copy of Berserker, and then going to set 2, and then just go for a copy of Nibiru right there. Might seem like a bit of a weak Nibiru, but it puts an extra body on board, which is important, so I think it's fine. What's funny is that the token keeps the Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi live, because the Berserker was making it live, but this is still a non-effect monster. So we're going to see the pass, and then top deck Gyusu. So we're going to see in the draw phase, going to activate the prologue, sending for cost, and then going to banish memories, as well as the Buster Blader and the Protector Whelp. That's going to go and summon out the Buster Dragon and the big Buster Blader. So it's basically like a Baguska for just your opponent, as long as these two cards are both active and online. So Nibiru gets switched to defense. He's going to normal summon the Girsu, and then immediately link away into a copy of Galatea, and then go for Dingirsu. I like this play a lot. I think this is the best you could do in this circumstance, because Girsu does not activate, so it gets to bypass kind of the Majesty's Fiend-like effect of Buster Blader. So that is very, very nice. So yeah, this is like a very sufficient wall. And it's going to be hard for Tenyi to OTK, so I definitely think this is good. It was probably worth maybe going like Galatea to attack into the 0 defense token, since the only tribute was Berserker, but it could be relevant actually because of this Fists, so we'll see. For turn, we're gonna see him draw a copy of Vishuda. So he's thinking a bit here, gonna switch the token to attack, and then going to banish the Vishuda from hand, because these can banish from hand or grave, by the way, just keep that in mind. And then bounce Dingirsu. Then at Hara, going to banish itself, that's going to add back the Vishuda. And then Battle Phase going to attack for 42. And that'll just be it. This can't attack directly, that's why it's leaving it in defense. He's going to set the Wear-Off Thou, and then this goes because of the prologue, and then just going to pass. For 10, we're going to see a top deck Mekk-Knight Blue Sky, playing on the Mekk-Knights here. And then we're going to see the Orcust player normal summon a copy of Scrap Recycler. That's going to be negated off the Fists. It doesn't destroy, but definitely does matter. So it probably would have been good if the Galatea hit over the token in last battle phase, because that wouldn't have been live. So he would have actually just been able to fully pop off against 0 disruption. And it's going to be a pass. So he doesn't play the Almirage to make like the Blue Sky live, because that would have enabled possibly like Phoenix, Pitch, Nightmare, hit the set, Wear-Off Thou, and then just combo. But yeah, not playing the Almirage here. I didn't play Almirage on my list either, just because like there's so much room, or there's not much room. There's so many cards you want to play for utility. Like this doesn't come up that frequently, but in this case it did, which is, you know, what can you do? If you were to play every card that came up at least once, then like extra decks would be 60 cards. But obviously that's why we have an extra deck limit. But we're gonna go ahead and see Buster Blader being switched to attack position. This is actually a game on board right here. So it's going to be 19 plus the 3k from the Nibiru token. And that is the end of the match. So yeah, kind of an anticlimactic way to end the game, but a pretty good demonstration of kind of both of these decks and what they're designed to do. It's cool to see kind of just the mixed engines for Buster Blader and Tenyi. I'm not sure if there's like native synergy, but the fact that this deck doesn't use a normal summon is nice, because it allows you to just freely normal the Buster Whelp. Was better last format without like massive Chuches and Conquistadors running about, but still pretty nice against especially like rogue decks that rely heavily on monsters. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as your thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on all social media platforms or support me via Patreon or TCG Player. All the links in the description as usual. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.